All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Today we are going to practice the American R, which is a sound that a lot of people have trouble with. Why is this not moving? Oh, wait, let me fix my technical difficulties here. Something is wrong. Oh. Okay, we'll try. Okay, here we go. Now, R sounds different, a little bit different, depending on if it's in the beginning of a word, or the middle of a word, or the end of a word. And we're going to focus on the beginning of a word today. Well, we'll practice R every time we encounter it, but we won't be focusing too much on how it sounds in the middle of a word or the end of a word. It's pretty complicated to do the R, but I read some great advice recently, and I'm going to share that with you. Each time, we're just going to read a few paragraphs from a book, and every time we encounter a word with an R in it, we are going to read the instructions, the physical instructions on how to pronounce the R, but also a couple of other things I want to try out with you to see if it helps. Okay, so first, we'll just read through this one time, and then we'll start reading from the paragraph, and we'll practice each time we find an R in a word. All right, so the physical instructions for pronouncing an R are: raise the tip of your tongue towards the upper gum ridge, but do not touch it. So up here. But don't let your tongue touch the top of your mouth. Press the sides of your tongue against your upper back teeth. Your tongue should be tense. Lips are slightly open. They may be slightly rounded or pushed out. As you make the sound, air flows out over the tip of your tongue. Your vocal cords vibrate. So that's very technical. That's a very technical explanation. But I was reading in another book something very interesting, where the person suggested that you should imagine, the author suggested that you should imagine that your hand is like your tongue. And when you say the R, you almost make a fist. This is a fist. So when you're saying, we're going to practice this each time, but I'm just explaining it to you one time first. Okay, so when you say the R, your tongue goes up like this, but don't touch the top of your mouth. So your tongue becomes tense and it goes something like this. Another interesting thing that I think that we should consider is that little children, when they're learning to speak, pronounce R's like W's for a very long time. It takes them a long time to figure out how to say an R sound. And they pronounce it like a W. So my name, Ryan, a little child, if they were saying my name, would say Wyan. And the thing about the beginning R is you give a little kiss, just like a W. You know, if I say my name like a W, Wyan, you see the kiss I'm giving you? You have to give me a kiss, Wyan. Okay, but also notice, though, when you say Wyan, it's kind of like you're eating the air. You're pushing down, Wyan. You can kind of feel in the back of your throat pushing down. But an R, you're actually going to be pushing out. And you have to feel air going up, hitting the top of your mouth, and then coming out, Ryan. So it is like a W, except you make a little fist with your tongue, and you push out a lot of air. Instead of pushing down, you push out, Ryan. Well, let's practice it. We're going to, let me move this out of the way. So we're just going to read. This is David Copperfield. I'm reading this book at night, live usually. Well, always live, but usually at night I'm reading this book on my YouTube channel, and we're discussing interesting vocabulary words and phrases that we find. So I'm just using this, but if you're interested, you should watch my videos when I read the book. Okay. So let's start reading, and every time we get to an R, we're going to reread the instructions, the mechanical instructions, and then we're going to practice saying it. So let's start. How somebody. Oh, also I want to do some intonation practice with you today, because it would be boring if we just did R sounds. So let's start. We'll go phrase by phrase, also practicing intonation. So first I'll just read it like a robot. How somebody lying in my bed lay saying and doing this, all this over again. Okay. If we look at that phrase, how somebody lying in my bed, what do you think would be the key words in that phrase? Let's pick one or two words that we think should be emphasized. I think that good words to emphasize here would be somebody and my. I would emphasize my here. My bed. So when we say these words, let's look at that word, somebody. The first word is the word that you emphasize with somebody. You have some and buddy, and the stress falls on some. So let's make that a very big vowel sound. By big I mean long. How somebody. This is just how American English sentences sound. You pick out a word, you emphasize it, and you de-emphasize the other words. So how somebody. Okay, also the pitch goes up. It's like a higher tone. How somebody, and then it falls. How somebody lying in my bed. Again, we'll just stretch out the vowel sound in my, and we'll also make the pitch higher. How somebody lying in my bed. Can you hear how that goes up and down, up and down? How somebody lying in my bed lay saying and doing all this over again. Okay, well, so let's pick out some key words in this next phrase. Lay saying and doing something. I can't read this sentence. It's a weird sentence. Lay saying and doing all this over again. Okay, I think lay would be a good word. Well, maybe saying and doing. Let's focus on saying and doing. So saying is 2 syllables. Where's the stress on that word? It's on say. Saying. So we want to make sure that we pronounce the vowel sound very clearly and make it a little bit longer. Saying. And then also with doing. Doing. Okay, but let's make the pitch higher too. Lay saying and doing. How somebody laying in my bed lay saying and doing all this over again. Now we finally have our first R. So let's practice like this. Let's first pronounce it like a little child. Let's pronounce it like a W. Ovo. Ovo. Oh, that's how a little child would say over. Ovo. Now at the end of a word, you don't really give a big kiss. Over. Just a little kiss. The end of a word is just a little kiss. And now remember that your tongue should be like this hand. It starts flat and then it becomes tense like this. Over. So your tongue does this. Over. And now when you say ovu, you can feel pushing down. But you want to do the opposite. You want to push air up. You have to feel the air hit the top of your mouth and come out. Over. So your tongue is doing this over. And the air is coming up and it's hitting the top of your mouth and it's going out. Over. And that's the R. Over. Okay, how somebody lying in my bed lay saying and doing all this over again. At cross purposes. Oh, we have more R's to practice now. Hi, Stillwaters. How are you doing this afternoon? Stillwaters said hello. So I'm just saying hello back. Okay, now we have another R, cross. we should be reading the instructions. Okay, but let's start though by remembering to say it like a little child would say it. Quas. Quas. So you're giving a kiss. Quas. Like a W. Okay, when you say quas, you can feel that you're pushing down in the back of your throat. But now we have to do the opposite. We have to push out. Over. And when you do that, also your tongue should be going like this. Over. Over. But let's read the technical instructions. I want to do that every time we come to an R. So we'll just remember this. But it is a little bit different at the end of a word. But similar. So raise the tip of your tongue towards your upper gum. So that's this part, doing this. Over, but don't touch it. Don't touch the top of your mouth. The tip of your tongue should not touch anything. Press the sides of your tongue against your upper back teeth. That's the side. You see how it's going up on the sides and up like this, kind of like a cup. Your tongue should be tense. Lips are slightly open. They may be slightly rounded or pushed out. As you make the sound, the air flows over the tip of your tongue. Over. So you feel air coming up. Your tongue is like this. But it's really like a W, except instead of going down, you go out. Oval. Over. Okay, let's see. What's the next word? We've got a lot of R's here suddenly. How somebody lying in my bed lay saying and doing all this over again. Over. Over. At cross purposes. We have cross. Okay, let's say that like a little child. Quas. Quas. See my kiss? See how I'm giving you a kiss? Quas. Quas. Because when you say an R, you give a little kiss. If it's in the middle of a word. If it's in the beginning of a word, you give a big kiss. But in the middle of a word, it's just a little kiss. Okay, and then make sure your tongue is like a cup. Like this. The sides are up. The tip is up, but it's not touching anything. And you push out a lot of air. Over. Over. But let's just read the instructions again. I hope this is not annoying. I think it's good, though, to just constantly remind ourselves of what we have to do. So raise the tip of your tongue towards the upper gum ridge, but do not touch it. The tip of your tongue should not touch anything. Press the sides, so the side, see how the sides come up? Press the sides of your tongue against your upper back teeth. Lips are slightly open. They may be slightly rounded or pushed out. That's the kiss. As you make the sound, the air flows out over the tip of your tongue. Your vocal cords vibrate over. So you should feel vibration here too. Over. Oh, no, we're doing cross now. So it's quas. That's how a little child would say it. But now push out if you say quas, but you push out instead of down, cross. You should feel that air coming up, passing over your tongue. Stillwater says, no, it's not annoying. Thank you for your hard work. Well, thank you for watching, Stillwaters. Okay, so let's go back. Quas, that's how a child says it. Now push out. Cross. Cross. Okay. How somebody, now let's practice our intonation too. How somebody lying in my bed lay saying and doing all this over again at cross purposes. That's a phrase, at cross purposes. And that means like in a conflict. So when you have two words that always go together, you usually want to emphasize the first word, which is cross. So let's make sure that we extend that vowel sound a little bit. Cross, at cross purposes. and that's an aw sound. That's another kiss sound, by the way, aw. So you have to give a kiss when you're saying that. So you start with a kiss with the R, and then you make a big kiss for the aw. Cross. Do you feel the air coming out? Cross. And your tongue is cross. Your tongue is like this. Okay. And then let's make the pitch a little bit higher. At cross purposes. And then we fall down. All right, let's try from the beginning. How somebody lying in my bed lay saying and doing, make the pitch higher on these emphasized words, all this over again at cross, and now we have another R. So let's go back and read the instructions, the technical instructions, and then we'll try to say it like a little child, and then we'll try to make a real R sound. So you raise the tip of your tongue. See, it's like a cup. You raise the tip of your tongue towards your upper gum ridge, but do not touch it. The tip of your tongue should not touch anything. Press the sides of your tongue, that's the side here. Press the sides of your tongue against your upper back teeth. Your tongue should be tense. Your lips are open slightly. They may be slightly rounded. That slightly means a little bit. As you make the sound, the air flows over the tip of your tongue. Your vocal cords vibrate. You should feel some vibration here. Cross, quas. So let's, we're saying purposes. Okay, let's start with per. If a child were saying that, it would be pour, because I guess they push down instead of out. Purr, pull, purr, purr. You can feel, if you say pull, like P-U-W, it's not a word, but if you say pull, when you're saying the R, purr, you can feel all the air coming up and hitting the top of your mouth and then flowing out. Purr. And your throat, but when you say pull, you also vibrate down here. But so the difference is pushing out the air and making your tongue into like a cup. Purr, purposes. So now let's say that with some intonation. We're going to emphasize the word cross. Cross. Let's do a high tone, high pitch. Cross purposes, and then fall down. Cross purposes. And because we're emphasizing that word, we'll make the vowel sound really, really big. Cross purposes. Cross purposes. Okay, let's read those sentences again with some intonation. So we'll emphasize somebody. How somebody, so higher pitch on some, and then also it's a little bit longer. How somebody, and the rest of the word just, it's not pronounced very clearly. How somebody lying, that's an emphasized word, lying in my bed. Well, actually, I think we should emphasize my. In my bed, lying in my bed, lay saying and doing all this over again. And then when you get to the end of the phrase, you want to make sure that your tone is falling. At cross purposes. Okay. Let's move on to the next phrase. In a feverish dream all night. I find that when you have an adjective, that's usually something that you want to emphasize. Because, if you say in a dream all night, that would be fine. But you choose to use this word feverish, so that's somehow more important, that it's a feverish dream. That's why the emphasis, I think, goes on feverish. So what is the... and we've got an R to practice. Oh, good. What is the stressed syllable in that word? Feverish. That's the first syllable. So we're going to make it a little bit longer than the other ones. Feverish. and we're going to make the tone higher. Feverish, feverish, feverish dream, feverish dream. Okay, so that's the intonation part. And in a, it's not important to the sentence, so it just becomes in a feverish dream, in a feverish dream. Okay, now let's practice our R here. Okay, a little child, if they were going to say feverish, they would say feverish, feverish. So they give it a little kiss, feverish. There's a kiss, but a W pushes down. An R pushes out, and you can feel a lot of air coming out. Feverish, rish, feverish. And your tongue is like a cup, and you can feel the air coming out and pushing out all over. Feverish. But let's read the instructions again. So just a reminder, raise the tip of your tongue towards the upper gum, but do not touch it. So that's the tip here. It's raised. Press the sides of your tongue against the upper back teeth. So that's why you have to bring the sides in of your tongue also. Your tongue should be very tense. Lips are open, slightly open. They may be slightly rounded or pushed out. Okay, that's the kiss. Feverish, feverish, rish, rish, rish. So your tongue starts like this, and when you make the sound, it goes like this. Feverish, and the air pushes out. And as you make the sound, the air flows out over the tip of your tongue, and your vocal cords vibrate. Feverish. Okay. Now that's our focus word. So let's make sure the pitch is a little bit higher, and the E in feverish is a little bit longer. Feverish, feverish. And then fall. Your tone falls on dream. Feverish dream. Feverish dream. In a feverish dream. All right, so let's start from the beginning again. How somebody... Sorry, I'm losing my voice. How somebody lying in my bed. So it's somebody lying in my bed lay saying and doing all this over again at cross purposes in a feverish dream all night. Okay. Oh, we finally have our first initial R with the bed, a rocking C. Okay. So really, the R that I wanted to practice today is the beginning R. These are the instructions for the beginning R. The final R and the middle R are a little bit more relaxed. They're not so intense. So this is perfect. Rocking. Now, a little child would say walking, walking, because they give that kiss, but they push down instead of out. Walking. That's how a child says rocking. But now, let's when we're making that sound, let's make sure in the beginning R you give a big kiss, rocking. So in the middle or final R, it's not such a big kiss, but in the initial R, the beginning R, it is a big kiss. Look at my lips, rocking, rocking. But a little child says walking. So your tongue, make it tense, make it like a cup, rocking, and push the air out. Rocking, rocking. So raise the tip of your tongue towards the upper gum ridge, but do not touch it. The tip of your tongue should not touch anything. Press the sides of your tongue against your upper back teeth. Your tongue should be tense. You know, it's very tense. This is relaxed. That's how you start. Rocking. But when you say the R, rocking, it becomes tense. Lips are slightly open. They may be slightly rounded or pushed out. Rocking, rocking. So that's my lips. You have to give a kiss. Rocking. And you have to feel the air coming up. You're pushing out. You're pushing the air out. It hits the top of your mouth and then it comes out of your lips. Rocking. Rocking. As you make the sound, the air flows out over the tip of your tongue. Your vocal cords vibrate. Oh no. Okay. I feel I lost my place. Okay. The bed, rocking, a rocking sea, a rocking sea that was never still. So, what do you think we should be emphasizing here? I think rocking is a good word to emphasize here. Adjectives. I think adjectives are usually a pretty good neutral focus. So let's make, where's the accented syllable in rocking? It's on the first syllable, ra. So let's make that vowel sound a little bit longer, rocking, rocking. And let's make the pitch a little bit higher, rocking, rocking. So the bed, a rocking sea. The bed, a rocking sea. And then maybe we could even emphasize never. We have another R. So how would a little child pronounce the word never? They would say nevo, nevo. This sounds like baby talk. That's really how little babies talk. Not even little babies. I don't know when kids start pronouncing the R correctly, but it's pretty late. It takes them a long time to pronounce it. Nevo. Nevo. That's how a little child says never. But because you make that shape with your lips, but when you say nevo, you're pushing the air down. But don't do that. Push the air out. Never. And do this with your tongue. Never. Never. And you should really feel a lot of air coming right up here to the top of your mouth and then pushing out. Never. Never. But let's read again. So raise the tip of your tongue towards the upper gum ridge, but do not touch it. The tip of your tongue should not touch anything. Press the sides of your tongue against your upper back teeth. Your tongue should be very tense. Lips are slightly open. They may be slightly rounded or pushed out. As you make the sound, the air flows out over the tip of your tongue. Your vocal cords vibrate. Never, never. There are some accents where people would say never, but that's not normal. You should try to do that a little bit softer. But we're just practicing now, so it's okay to exaggerate. Never. All right. So I think that's another focus word. Where's the accented syllable in never? It's on the first syllable. So let's pretend that there's a little H after that E. Ne. Just to give it a little extra push. Never. And let's raise the tone a little bit. Never. And then fall down. Never. 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 Still. And then we fall down with still. Never still. The bed, a rocking sea that was never still. And then notice how these words in the middle, they just become like one little sound, one little word. That was. A rocking sea that was never still. That was. This helps with the listening too, to understand the intonation of an English sentence. It really helps for listening, but it helps you sound more natural if you can manage to imitate that. So we have the bed, a rocking sea that was never still. The bed, a rocking sea that was never still. The bed, a rocking sea that was never still. Okay, So let's practice the intonation and the R's that we've already done. How somebody lying in my bed lay saying and doing all this over again at cross purposes in a feverish dream all night. The bed, a rocking sea that was never still. How, as that somebody slowly settled down into myself. These are complicated sentences, actually. That's a little bit too complicated because I think we have to analyze the meaning of the sentence to figure out which word to emphasize. Let's just keep going until we get to an R. Did I begin to parch? Okay, we've got another R, and this word parch means to feel thirsty. So if you are extremely thirsty, one thing that you can say is, I'm parched. That means I'm extremely thirsty. I'm dying of the feeling of thirst. Now we have an R to practice. So first, let's say it like a little child would say it, which is pouch. Pouch. That's how a little child would say the word parch. Pouch. So you're doing the lip movement of the R, but you're pushing down. Now we have to push the air out. Parch. You should feel air coming up, hitting the top of your mouth and going out. Parch. You really do feel the air like right above here and then go out. Okay, then also remembering that we have to cup the tongue like this. So the tip goes up and the sides go up a little bit. Parch. Parch. And then you can feel the air going over like that. Parch. Parch. But let's read. Let's read the instructions again. Raise the tip of your tongue towards the upper gum ridge, but do not touch it. The tip of your tongue should not touch anything. Press the sides against your upper back teeth. Your tongue should be tense. Lips are slightly open. They may be slightly rounded or pushed out. As you make the sound, the air flows up over the tip of your tongue. So you've got the tongue and then the air goes like this. As you make the sound, the air flows over the tip of your tongue. Your vocal cords vibrate it. Stillwater says, could I ask a question? English is complicated or complex. Which adjective is correct? I think that, when you use the word complex, they're both fine, I think. I don't think either one is incorrect. For some reason, when I think of the word complex, I think of like a complicated design. So if you say that English is complex, it could be that you're complaining about the complicated grammar, or probably grammar or syntax or something like that. The structure of it is difficult. But if you say that English is complicated, probably your emphasis would be on it's all difficult. But I think that you could use them interchangeably. I don't think that there's a really big difference between them. I mean, that might technically be the difference, but I don't think that in normal conversation, people notice that. I think they use them interchangeably. It doesn't matter. Okay, so let's start from the beginning again, practicing our intonation, going up and down, up and down, up and down, and ignoring the words in between. How somebody lying in my bed lay saying and doing all this over again at cross purposes in a feverish dream all night. The bed, a rocking sea that was never still. How is that somebody slowly settled down into myself? did I begin to parch. And feel as if my outer covering of skin were a hard board. Oh, we've got a lot of R's here to practice. Let's see. We've got, and feel as if my outer, okay, so let's first practice saying that like a little child. Outo, outo. That's how a little child would say outer. Outo, outo. So we're giving that kiss, we're giving the kiss outo, okay? But when you say outo, you can feel that you're pushing down in the back of your throat. But that's not, you want to do the opposite. You want to push out. And you want to feel the air. Your tongue goes like this. Your tongue is like a cup. And then you feel the air go whoosh, like that. Outer, 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 outer. This is the air. Outer, like that. Outer. But let's read the instructions again. We'll just keep reviewing it. Raise the tip of your tongue towards the upper gum ridge, but do not touch it. The tip of your tongue should not touch anything. Press the sides of your tongue against your upper back teeth. Tip of your tongue, sides of your tongue. Your tongue should be tense. So it starts relaxed, but then you make it tense. Lips are slightly open. They may be slightly rounded or pushed out. As you make the sound, the air flows out over the tip of your tongue. Your vocal cords vibrate. Where are we? Outer covering. Okay, now we have another R. I'm not going to read the instructions this time. We'll just do the cup, okay? So we have covering. Now, a little child would pronounce this covering, because they give the kiss. But they're pushing down when they should be pushing out. Covering. And your tongue goes like this, covering, whoosh, and the air comes up and out. You can feel it touch the top of your mouth and whoosh, come out. Covering. Covering. Outer covering of skin. We're hard. We're a hard board. Okay, now we have another word. Hard. Hard. A little child would say howd. Howd. Because they give the kiss. But again, you have to be pushing out, not down. Whoosh, goes over the tongue. Tongue is like this. Whoosh, covering. You feel the air coming up and out over your tongue. Covering. And now we have an interesting word. We have board. This is kind of a funny thing. If you try to pronounce bow and erd, it's pretty much impossible to do that. You have to add an extra vowel sound here, a little So you don't say board, you don't say board. Board. I can't even say it. You have to add a little board. You hear that Board. That happens with the R sometimes. Sometimes you have to add a little extra syllable. Board. So it's erd. So a child would say board. Board. I don't know. I can't remember that far back. But so what we want to do, though, instead of saying bowl, is we want to cup our tongue and let the air come up. Push out a lot of air. Board. Your tongue's like this. Board. Feel the air coming out. Board. Lots of R's here. Let's see. Feel my outer covering of skin were a hard board. Hard, hard, board. My tongue, the bottom of an empty kettle. I think these sentences are a little bit too complicated to practice intonation. So we're going to skip some intonation here until we get to something a little bit easier to practice with. Okay, my tongue, the bottom of an empty kettle, furred with a long service. Okay, so we have furred. I don't even know what that means. Let's check the meaning of that word. I just read this a few days ago. I don't remember that word, though. Oh, well, it just means, well, you know, the fur is like the hair of an animal. So, you know, humans have hair, but animals like dogs or cats, they have fur. And so it literally means furred, that he could feel like fur on his tongue because he's so thirsty. Okay. Now, how would a little child pronounce that? A little child would say fode, fode, because they give the kiss, but they're pushing down instead of pushing out the air. So you have to make your tongue like this, very tense. It's up a little bit. It's not touching anything. The sides are up a little bit. And then you have to feel the air coming out. Furred, furred. You really feel all this air pushing up. If you're saying it the right way, you feel a lot of air pushing up into the front of your mouth and then going out. Furred. Furred. Fold. You know, when you say a W, everything is vibrating back here. If you can say fold, fold with a W, you feel how everything is kind of vibrating in the back of your throat. Fold. But what you want to feel that same vibration, but up at the top of your mouth with air. Furred. If you're doing it right, you should feel that. Furred with long service. Okay, so now we have another R. Now let's go back and read the instructions again, since I've ignored it these last few times. Okay, so first of all, though, how would a little child say service? They would say sovis, 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 because they give the kiss, but they're vibrating in the back of the mouth, and all that action should be up at the front of the mouth. Service. Feel the air coming up and out. Service, service. You should really feel a lot of air hitting the top of your mouth and then going out. So raise the tip of your tongue towards the upper gum ridge, but do not touch it. The tip of your tongue should not touch anything. Press the sides against your upper back teeth. Your tongue should be tense. It should be like this, like a cup. Lips are slightly open. They may be slightly rounded or pushed out. As you make the sound, the air flows up over the tip of your tongue. Your vocal cords vibrate. I lost my place again. Okay. Furred with long service and burning up over a slow fire. Oh, so many R's. So let's practice burning, all right? Now a little child would say boning, boning. They'd make the W sound, bowl, boning. So that's the kiss. You have to give a kiss. And then your tongue should be like this. Not touching anything, except maybe the back of your teeth a little bit. Burning. But so the air comes up and goes out. When you're saying a W, you feel the vibration back here. But you want to feel the vibration, really just air, up here at the front, burning. You should feel all that air pushing out at the top of your mouth. Burning. Burning up, over. Now we have over. A little child would say oval, oval, with a W sound, because they give the kiss. But they're vibrating back here. You should be vibrating up here at the top. Over, over. Start like this. Your tongue is like this, and then it goes like this. And the air comes up and pushes out. And you feel it. You feel a lot of air up here. Over, over, burning up over a slow fire. Now remember, I told you that sometimes when you pronounce a word that has an R in it, there's a little extra sound. We have that with fire. So it's not fire, it's fire. Fire. So it's not just R, it's Fire. Now a little child would say file. File. Because they vibrate back here when they should be vibrating up here. Fire. Fire. Your tongue is like this and the air comes out. Fire. All right, burning up over a slow fire. The palms of my hands, hot plates of metal, which no ice could cool. Okay, so let's practice a little bit of this intonation we started at the beginning. How somebody lying in my bed lay saying and doing all this over again. Over again. At cross purposes. In a feverish dream all night. The bed, a rocking sea that was never still. So we're going up, down, up, down, up, down, focusing on special words. How is that somebody slowly settled down into myself did I begin to parch and feel as if my outer covering of skin were a hard board, my tongue at the bottom of an empty kettle, furred with long service and burning up over a slow fire, the palms of my hands, hot plates of metal, which no ice could cool. Okay, hopefully the next paragraph has some easier sentences in it that we can practice intonation. It's a little bit too complicated. Maybe I should use a child's book or something. But the agony of mine, the remorse. Oh, we've got two R's in this word. Okay. Well, let's practice saying remorse the way the little child would say remorse, which would be remorse. Remorse. So two kisses. Remorse. Remorse. And you can feel the pushing down, but now instead of pushing down, push out. And push out a lot of air. And make sure your tongue goes like this. Remorse. 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 Let's see. But the agony of mind, the remorse, the shame. Okay, I think we can do some intonation here. I think that the words that we should focus on here would be remorse and shame. If you don't know what remorse is, that's when you feel bad that you have done something to hurt someone else or something dishonest, and then you feel bad about it. That's your conscience. That's remorse. But the agony of mind, the remorse. See my kisses? Do you see my kisses? Remorse. And I'm pushing out a lot of air. Remorse. And my tongue's like that. Remorse. And shame. So let's emphasize those two words in our phrase. So the remorse. So up, down. And shame. That's just one syllable. Remorse. The the accented syllable is on Morse, so let's make that O a little bit longer and a higher pitch. The remorse and shame I felt when I became conscious the next day. Oh, now we've got a really great word here. Horror. That's a hard word to say, even for me. Horror. Horror. Okay. How would a little child say that? A little child would say howo. Howo. That's how a little child would say it. So when you're saying a W, you're pushing down. But when you're saying an R, you want to push out. And you want to push out a lot of air. And your tongue is like a cup. And the air comes up. Whoosh, it hits the top of your mouth and then it comes out. Horror. That's a bad word, by the way. Whore. That's not a nice word. I hope I don't get in trouble on YouTube for saying that word. Horror. Okay, so can you feel that? Can you feel the air coming up, whoosh, hitting the top of your mouth and then bouncing down and going out? Horror. Horror. Okay, but now we have another R after that. So that's horror. Horror. Stillwater says that mirror and error are challenging words to pronounce. Well, a little child would say miwo. Can you say that? I think that should be easy, right? Does that exist in Mandarin? Can you say "u" at the end of a word in Mandarin? I don't know. Miwo. But even if you don't, I think that's pretty easy because you just give a big kiss. Miwo. Whoa. Whoa. Can you say whoa? Whoa. Whoa. That's 2 kisses. Whoa. Whoa. See my lips? 2 kisses. Whoa. Whoa. Okay, but when you're doing that, you're pushing down. And what you want to do is push out. So instead of whoa, it's roar, roar. But now let's do the tongue and the air also. Roar. Mirror. 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 That's really 3 R's because you have to say mirror, mirror. Make sure your tongue is like this. Mirror. Make sure you're giving a kiss. Make sure you're pushing out air. Mirror. And then you say ruh. Mirror. Mirror. That's 2 R's. Mirror. Mirror. Ruh. And then another R. Mirror. Mirror. So there's a lot of air pushing out at the end of that word. Mirror. Mirror. Is that special? Mirror. 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 Huh. I have to think about that. But horror is a similar word to mirror and error. You have horror, which is similar. Horror. So instead of ho, whore, push out. And you feel the air coming out. Whore. And your tongue is like this. Horror. 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 Oh gosh, I feel ridiculous saying, talking like this. Horror. My horror of having committed 1,000 offenses. So let's see. But the agony of mind, the remorse, and shame. So let's make the tone a little bit higher. The remorse and shame I felt when I became conscious the next day. My horror of having committed 1,000 offenses I had forgotten, and which nothing could ever expiate. Okay, so we have forgotten. So a little child would say foal, 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 because you give the kiss a lot of times when you're saying an R, foal, foal. But when you say a W, your throat is vibrating. But what you want is to push out and push the air up to the top of your mouth. Four. And your tongue is like this. Oh, I think we haven't read the R instructions in a long time. Let's go back and read the R instructions. So raise the tip of your tongue towards the upper gum ridge, but do not touch it. The tip of your tongue should not touch anything. Press the sides of your tongue against your upper back teeth. Your tongue should be tense, like a cup. Lips are slightly open. They may be slightly rounded and pushed out. As you make the sound, the air flows out over the tip of your tongue. First, it hits the top of your mouth. Four. Your vocal cords vibrate. Forgotten. This is another one of those R sounds where there's a little in the front. And so it's not for. It's for. For. Forgotten. A thousand offenses I had forgotten. Okay, well, let's do a little bit of intonation with this. And I think that one word that we should emphasize is horror. And let's see, what else? Of having committed 1,000. And I think thousand would be a good word to also emphasize. So that word horror, all of the accent is on the first syllable. So let's make that O very big. Horror, very long. Horror. And let's also raise our intonation, raise our tone. Horror. And then fall down. My horror of having committed 1,000 offenses. So these other words of having committed it should just be like one word. Of having committed Of having committed Of having committed My horror of having committed And now I think we should emphasize the word thousand. Where's the accent in that word? Thousand. It's in the first syllable. So let's make it a little bit longer and also raise the pitch. Thousand. Thousand. And then we'll fall down with offenses. So my horror of having committed 1,000 offenses. See how the other words are almost ignored? It's just those special words that really pop out and are pronounced very clearly. My horror of having committed 1,000 offenses I had forgotten, and which nothing could ever expiate. So now we have the word ever, and a little child would say evo, evo, evo. So when you're doing the W, you can feel the back of your throat vibrating, evo. It's like you're eating it. But you don't want to eat an R, you want to push out an R. So you have to make sure you're feeling the air come up and hit the top of your mouth and go over your tongue. Your tongue is tense. The tip of your tongue is up a little bit. It's not touching anything though. Ever. And then the air comes out over the top of the tongue. I had forgotten, and which nothing could ever expiate. My recollection of that indelible look which Agnes had given me. Recollection. Okay, good, we've got a beginning R here. Recollection. Recollection. So a little child who probably would never say that word, it's a pretty big word for a little child, but if they did, they would say recollection, recollection, because they're giving that kiss, but they're pushing down when they should be pushing out. So your tongue is like this. It's like a cup. And the air comes up and out. Hits the top of your mouth. And then it goes down out of your mouth. Rah. Rah. You have to feel a lot of air, an explosion of air right up here. Rah. And then you can feel it coming out. Rah. Recollection. My recollection of that indelible look which Agnes had given me. The torturing impossibility of communicating with her. Okay, we have the word torturing, 2 R's. If a little child were to say that word, they would say torturing, torturing, because they want to give that kiss, but they push down instead of out. So instead of toe, that's pushing down, push out. Feel the air. Your tongue is like this. First your tongue is relaxed, and then it's... Wait, I better do it like this. First your tongue is relaxed, but when you say the R, it becomes tense. The tip comes up a little bit. It doesn't touch anything. Don't touch anything. But your tongue just becomes like a cup. And then the air comes out, hits the top of your mouth, and then slides out. Tor. You really have to feel a lot of air exploding in your mouth up at the top. Tor. So a child says toe, but we want to go out, not in. Tor. And feel all that air. And then we have another R. So chore. Now a child would say cho, because they give the kiss, but they push down and they have to be pushing out. So your tongue is like this. Tor. Feel the air hitting the top and then coming out. Tor. Torture. A child says tocho, but an adult hopefully says torture. You have to feel all that air coming out of your mouth. Torturing impossibility of communicating with her. Okay, and we have another word, her. A little child would say ho. But that's because they're pushing down and they have to be pushing out. Tur. And they have a tense tongue. Tur. You can feel the air hitting the top and going out. Torturing impossibility of communicating with her. Not knowing. Let's see. Can we do some intonation with this? Or is it still too complicated? Let's see. The torturing impossibility. So we have the noun impossibility, and torturing here is an adjective. So let's emphasize the word torturing. Where's the accented syllable in that word? Torturing. That's the first syllable. Torturing. So what we'll do is we'll make that a longer sound. Torturing. And then we'll raise the pitch. Torturing. The torturing impossibility. The torturing impossibility of communicating with her. And all those other words just sort of blend and make one word. The torturing impossibility of communicating with her. Not knowing, beast that I was, how she came to be in London, or where she stayed. Now, this word, remember, I'm telling you that sometimes when there are certain words that have an R in them, and they add an extra syllable. And if you compare, I'm just going to actually put 2 words up here. Let's practice it for a minute. Here's number 1, which is, this is a really good example. Let me get number 2 here. See, these words are almost identical, but the really big difference is that when you say number 1, you have to put an extra sound in front of the R. Listen to how I say number 1. Where. But compare that to number 2. Were. Isn't that funny? So they're almost the same word. The only big difference is that with number 1, you have to add an extra vowel sound. Where. Were. Number 1, where. Number 2, were. You hear that? That happens with some words. You just have to pay attention to which words they are. Later, I want to, maybe today or tomorrow, I'm not sure when, because I have a lot of work to do with this, but I want to do RL combinations. And that always happens with an RL combination, world, but that's actually you're adding the sound to the L. But hopefully I'll do that today or tomorrow. I'll try to. But so that's really interesting that these words are almost the same, but there's a little secret sound in number 1 that does not appear in number 2. Where, were. Okay, now here we have the word where, so we have that extra sound. And if a little child were to pronounce that, it would be whale, whale, because they give that kiss, but they're pushing down instead of out. And I don't know what their tongue is doing, but you know, your tongue has to become tense. Where, and you have to feel that air filling up your mouth, coming up to the top, and then whoosh, going out. Where. We haven't read the physical instructions in a while. Let's go back to that for a minute. Let me get rid of my where and were. So you raise the tip of your tongue. This is the tip. Raise the tip of your tongue towards the upper gum ridge, but do not touch it. The tip of your tongue should not touch anything. Press the sides of your tongue against the upper back teeth. So the sides come up a little bit, the tip comes up a little bit. Your tongue should be tense. So this is relaxed. This is tense. The lips are slightly open. They may be slightly rounded or pushed out. As you make the sound, air flows out over the tip of your tongue. Whoosh, goes out. Your vocal cords vibrate. All right, let's see. Or where she stayed, my disgust of the very sight of the room. Okay. Let's see. I think we could do some intonation practice here. So my disgust of the very sight of the room. I think when you get adjectives or adverbs, those are really good words to choose as something to emphasize, because you only use those to make something more intense or more interesting. So they're really good words, I think, if you're not sure what to emphasize. Adjectives and adverbs are a good place to start. So we have my as kind of an adjective here. My disgust. So we'll make that vowel sound longer. My. And we'll make the tone higher. My disgust, and we'll fall with disgust. My disgust of the very sight of the room. Okay, now we've got 2 R's to practice here. We've got very. So again, remember, we make a cup with the tongue. Very. And a little child would say vowie, vowie. So they do the kiss, but they push down when they should be pushing out. Very. You have to feel the air coming up, hitting the top of your mouth, and whoosh, going out over the tongue. Whoosh. Very. If you don't feel a lot of air collecting in the top of your mouth, you're not doing it right. You should feel a lot of air when you give the R. Very. 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 So if you say very like a child, but then try to push out air and make sure your tongue is like this, you'll be saying an R. Very. Very. It's like focus. You know, when you say very, the focus is down here. I've been saying vibration, but this is not really a vibration up here. But maybe focus, focal point would be a good word. So when you say a W, the focus is down here. But when you say an R, the focus is right above here somewhere. And you can feel the air push up and explode and go out. Very, very. Where are we? The very sight of the room. So we have the word room now. And again, a little child would say womb, womb. Okay, but that's because they focus down here. They should be focusing up here, concentrating all the energy up here. Very, very. You have to feel a lot of air pushing up against the top of your mouth and then going out. Very. And your tongue. This is a relaxed tongue. Here's a tense tongue. Very. Make your tongue tense. Oh. Okay, now let's practice the intonation part of that. So we'll focus on my and very. My disgust of the, and again these unfocused words, they just sound like little throwaway words of the. My disgust of the. My disgust of the very sight of the room. Oh, I think we did very already. We were supposed to be doing room. I'm getting confused. Room. So a child says womb, but that's because the focus is down here. Focus up here. Room. And feel the air hitting the top of your mouth and then going out with your tense tongue. Room. Room. And then we already did the word where. Remember, it has that extra sound, that sound. Where. Where. A little child says well, but that's because the focus is down here when it should be up here. Where. Where. Where the revel had been held. A revel, that means party here. So we have revel. A little child saying that would say wevel. They would do that with the L too. An L would sound like a W from a little child. Wevel. That's how a child would say revel. So if you're saying wevel, let's say wevel. Let's not make it confusing. Wevel. If you say it with a W, you can feel the focus down here. But redirect the focus to the top of your mouth. Revel. And feel all that air coming up and exploding in your mouth and coming out over your tense, cupped tongue. Revel. 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 Okay. Let's go back and do the intonation one more time here. My disgust of the very sight of the room. So we're going up and then down and then up and then down. My disgust of the very sight of the very sight of the room where the revel had been held. My racking head. Okay, so we have another R. And so a little child would say whacking, whacking. And you can feel the focus is here if you say whacking. But you have to redirect the focus to the top of your mouth. Racking. You have to feel all that air pushing out at the top of your mouth. And then it goes over the tongue. Racking. Racking. My racking head. So I think that racking here would be a word to focus on. So where is the stress syllable in racking? It's on the first syllable. So let's make the tone a little bit higher. Racking. Racking. And let's make the vowel a little bit longer. Racking. Racking. My racking head. My racking head. My disgust of the very sight of the room where the revel had been held. My racking head. The smell of smoke. The sight of glasses. The impossibility of going out or even getting up. Okay, there are no more R's in this sentence. And so let's just focus on the intonation of that. Let's see. I think that with the smell of smoke, I think that we should focus on the word smell. So what we'll do is we'll make the tone higher. Smell. And we'll make the E a little bit longer. The smell of smoke. The smell of smoke. And then we'll fall with smoke. The smell of smoke. And then we have the sight of glasses. And I think here the emphasis would be on sight. So let's make the vowel really long. Sight. And let's make the tone higher. The sight. The sight, and then let's fall with of glasses. The sight of glasses. The impossibility of going out. This is a pattern here. We have the smell, the sight, the impossibility. So I think the natural word to focus in this pattern is on impossibility. Where is the stress syllable? Impossibility. So the stress syllable is on bill. Let's make that longer. Bill. The impossibility. The impossibility. And let's make the pitch higher on that syllable. The impossibility. The impossibility of going out. Let's try that from the beginning. The smell of smoke. The sight of glasses. The impossibility of going out. And then we have one more in that pattern, getting up, or even getting up. But I think because we have even here, and it's the end, let's focus on even. So where's the accented syllable on even? That's the first syllable. Let's make it longer. Even. And make the pitch higher. Even. Even getting up. Oh, we have an or. I didn't notice that. We've got one more R to practice here. Now remember that sometimes when you're saying a word with an R, there's a little extra sound, and or has that. So I think a lot of times when people are learning English, they want to say or. But it's not or. There's a little sound in there next to the R, in front of the R. It's or. Or. Now a little child would say oh, because they do the kiss. But they're focusing down here when the focus should be at the top of the mouth. You should feel a lot of air pushing up. Your tongue is tense, like this. And the air pushes up and hits the top of your mouth and then goes out. Or you should feel the air coming up, hitting the top of your mouth and then coming out. Or even getting up. Or even getting up. Okay, let's go back and read that paragraph again. And let's practice the intonation of it. How somebody lying in my bed. Let's try that again. I forgot the beginning. How somebody lying in my bed lay saying and doing all this over again at cross purposes, in a feverish dream all night. The bed, a rocking sea that was never still. How, as that somebody slowly settled down into myself, did I begin to parch and feel as if my outer covering of skin were a hard board. My tongue, the bottom of an empty kettle, furred with long service and burning up over a slow fire. The palms of my hands, hot plates of metal. Oh, we did read the second paragraph. We're starting. Okay. But the agony of mind, the remorse, the shame I felt when I became conscious the next day, my horror of having committed 1,000 offenses, I had forgotten, and which nothing could ever expiate. My recollection of that indelible look which Agnes had given me, a torturing reminder, a torturing impossibility of communicating with her, not knowing, beast that I was, how she came to be in London, or where she stayed. My disgust at the very sight of the room where the revel had been held, my racking head, the smell of smoke, the sight of glasses, the impossibility of going out, or even getting up. Okay, well, I think that's enough for today. We're not finished with R's because the final R and the middle R are a little bit different. We've been cheating and just doing the beginning R for everything, but it takes a lot of practice. So we'll do another few videos where we practice R's, but the focus will be on the middle sound or the ending sound instead of the beginning sound. All right. Well, I think that's enough for today. And thank you for watching, and I will see you later, possibly today, I think. I don't know. All right. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.